Hi everybody, I'm David Higginbotham. I'm the editor at Guns America. And we were talking earlier today on the range and the question came up, how do you know when you are ready to carry? And it's kind of a loaded question. And I think Daniel and I both have very different perspectives on this because we come from very different backgrounds. Daniel with his military service was never given the option necessarily. How old were you when you joined up?
17.
Yeah, so that was before you could legally have carried anyhow, right? So
Yeah.
So you entered in a very
I could carry guns in foreign countries, and I actually was doing that before I could legally buy tobacco.
Yeah, I was out of college, and my story, to give you a little bit of perspective, I was a very left-leaning liberal Democrat, working on creative writing, playing in bluegrass bands, and sort of living the hippie lifestyle out in Mexico. And I came back to Atlanta because I ran out of money and I needed a job. And when I was there, shortly after arriving, I was mugged, and the incident was pretty traumatic for me. One of the first things I did was I went to a friend of mine who was a bailiff and I said, "Teach me everything you know about carrying a gun." He worked at the sheriff's department. He had access to the range. He took me out. We shot a little bit. There was one of those gun ranges in town that rented handguns, and we went and laid down a bunch of money and rented everything we could, shut the hell out of it all, and I came away with a Kel-Tec, and within about 48 hours later, I had my concealed carry permit, and I had my little in-waistband holster, and I had tucked that Kel-Tec in, and I went back to work after the weekend with a gun in my waistband, and I was nowhere near ready to carry. And I had a fair amount of trigger time. I had a modicum of training from somebody who cared a lot about me. But realistically, when I put that gun on and I walked out into public, I was suddenly much more of a danger to myself and others because I wasn't ready for it mentally. And what I was doing was sort of staggering around the streets of Atlanta, looking at everybody with a new level of threat assessment, thinking that every single person out there was coming for me. And the weight, the psychological weight of that gun in my waistband, and then trying to figure out what I was going to do with it when I got to work. All of the considerations of daily carry, which those of us who do carry daily, we think about, we work out for ourselves, we find those strategies. I was nowhere near ready for it.
It was really overwhelming for you. I think it's partly because it was just basically a sudden rush. It was all dumped on top of you really quickly, and you went from not even liking them at all, being against them, to suddenly having an everyday carry kit, having a gun, having everything else, and having to deal with all that. You had no idea where to start. Asking someone, when is someone ready to carry? It's so different for every person. Jeff Cooper said it really well when he said, just because you have a guitar doesn't make you a musician. And I run into people very, very often that I would not like to be around my wife and child with a loaded firearm. Whether they're carrying concealed or handling it or showing it to somebody, I would rather not be around them. Those people are out there. People get pretty heated about this. I believe it's everybody's right. I would never question that to carry a firearm in any other way you carry it or own the firearm for whatever reason. I'm not questioning that at all. But I do run across people on a fairly regular basis. And I'm like, look, I'm really glad you're here. I would like for you to come up to a class. I'll even take care of it. I'll comp you the fee, man, because you're really at the point right now where your confidence is here, but your ability's here. And there's a couple kind of people out there. Some people know that where their ability is. Some people have a very, very wrong view of their self, of what their personal abilities are, and their confidence a lot of times will outweigh what their abilities actually are. I see that a lot of times with females. Females usually at the end of a class, their ability's here, but their confidence is still down here. I'll see some guys come out that their ability is down here, but they'll come out to the class and their confidence is here, and they're scary. Some of them, they're dangerous, and I just want to try to keep them on my range as long as I can, and get them where they are more confident. And I've got students that are better than most cops I've trained and most military I've trained and trained with, and they're better than some of them, a lot of them, and they still don't feel like that they're ready to carry a gun. And I think they should be carrying a gun because I want good guys of high moral character that could use a firearm safely and make decisions very well carrying a gun. But how do you weigh that? How do you say, okay, I've got these checks in the box, it's time to start carrying a gun? Any ideas?
None whatsoever. I owned that Kel-Tec for 2 weeks, and then I sold it. I ditched it and I bought a full-size Beretta 92 FS, which I wasn't going to carry concealed. But as a firearm, it was something that I was able to train with and do more with. I could go to the range and shoot it. I could take it camping. I ended up carrying it around in my truck for years. It was more than 15 years after I had first got my concealed carry permit before I started carrying a firearm on a daily basis.
Is there a checklist that a person can do for themselves as, understanding who they are that will allow them to confidently say, I'm ready for this?
Well, I tell people to start with the most important question. You're carrying around the ability to end a human life. That is no small thing. That should be first and foremost in your mind when you put that gun on. And you need to ask yourself that question, the biggest question. Can I take a human life? Can I shoot someone and use deadly force that is likely to cause them to die or at least serious bodily harm? Can I do that to another person? Maybe even a person that you know. Can you do that? And if you can find situations where you could, protecting your children or loved ones, then if the answer is yes, then okay, that's step one. Great. Now we have to find a gun that works for us and we can accurately use the gun. But we're talking more about mindset type stuff. We need to understand laws. We need to understand that, and we need to understand the liability involved with carrying a firearm. There is a lot of liability involved with drawing a firearm in a public place, and whether shots are fired or not, there's a lot attached to it. We need to educate ourselves the best we can so we can make the best decisions in the biggest variety of types of situations that could come about. And if we just go buy a gun and we don't even put any thought into training or conditioning our minds or awareness or the places we should stay away from, we don't pay attention to any of those things, it's a problem. We're gonna create problems, and we're probably not gonna be safe carrying that gun for numerous different reasons. You might be the best shooter ever. You might have won some competitions, but if we don't have the right mindset, taking it incredibly seriously, that we are carrying the ability to take human lives around with us everywhere we go. Pick up my kid from school, I've got a gun on me. Okay, this is not something that I should ever take lightly, and nobody should.
I completely agree with that. It's a moral question more than anything else. Some of the people who are sporting firearms enthusiasts are great, but they shouldn't necessarily be carrying, and they won't carry. For me, it was the birth of my son. When my son was born, I immediately decided right then and there what I was capable of, and that was protecting him. And that's when I started to carry.
I don't think there's magic. I don't think either you can do it or you're not. I'm special so I can carry. You're not ever going to be at my level, so you can't carry. That's not how it is. I think that I think even to 18 you can be carrying a firearm. I think there's people out there, teenagers, that have the ability to make decisions and probably weigh consequences enough that on par with some of the older adults, I guess. All the way up to their 90-year-olds, if they want to carry a gun. I have no issue with it whatsoever. You just got to go out and reach outside the box a little bit, get a little bit of training, and you'll be able to figure out what you need to do, and hopefully you find the right people and get you on the right track and make the right decisions.
Yeah. Let us know. Tell us what you think. When did you start carrying? Why don't you carry now? We're eager to hear from you.